Hey Grammar Pirates, welcome back for another edition of Pronoun Help, and we are going to be talking about some of the most frustrating pronouns, who and whom, and when to use those. And there's a couple of ways to help yourself work on these. We are going to approach them in a few categories. So if you are using our Grammar Pirate strategies, you will be in great shape. And what are your Grammar Pirate rules again? So I want you to think about that. Step 1, underline and label the verb. This will be really important for that next step, which is draw the mast. And the mast helps you to be able to identify the subject and the predicate of each sentence. Step 3 is ask the question. And remember, we were using that trying to find direct objects or subject complements. And then sometimes, remember, you also need to be aware to put parentheses around your clauses so that you can really be ready to go. So we're going to start with the first category here, and that's talking about subjects of a sentence and which pronoun you are going to use, who or whom. So when you are trying to figure out the correct pronoun to use, you really do need to use all of our Grammar Pirate skills to determine the correct pronoun. When you have a pronoun here in the subject, you use who. I'm going to say that again because that's so important. When you find that you are going to be using this pronoun in the subject of a sentence, you will choose to use who. That's because it's a subject pronoun. And this is why remembering the steps is so important. So what are they again? Step 1, I know you can say it, underline and label the verb. And step 2 is draw the mast. Step 3 is asking the question. So if we were going to be looking at the example that we have up here, who will be writing on the board, one of the other ways that I like to try and do is think about what would I replace who with, or what would be the antecedent, which we actually don't see here. So if I could say Bella will be writing on the board, Bella is in the subject of the sentence. So again, what we would do was we would underline and label the verb, or verb phrase in this case. Step 2 is going to be draw the mast. And the mast is separating out our subject from our predicate. And we know that this is going to be the subject pronoun. So we are going to be using who. So if you want to, take a little bit of a break, hit pause, do some jumping jacks, go pet your dog, feed the goldfish, and then when you come back, we're going to talk about object of the preposition. So I'm glad you're back. Remember when we said to think about the ship, under the ship, through the ship, around the ship, before the ship. All of those are examples of a prepositional phrase. And if you have a prepositional phrase, you want to use an object pronoun, or in this case, whom. So to whom it may concern, there's a prepositional phrase here. So if we again take a look at this, to is a preposition, to the ship, to whom. We don't know who our antecedent is here, but we do know that it's the object of a preposition, and when it's an object of a preposition, we are going to put in whom. All right. So we're going to take a minute and kind of look at some examples here, and then I'm going to ask you to try and figure out which one should go in here. So you want to write those down. Carrie Ann, who or whom, hates spiders, wears bug-stomping boots wherever she goes. Number 2, the person to who or whom I am singing. Number 3, Professor Borglum glared at Reggie, who or whom spent the entire class drawing space aliens in the margins of the lecture outline. 4, for who or whom the bell tolls. And number 5, who or whom was going to the store. All right, so here we are. Carrie Ann, who hates spiders, so we could replace it with Carrie Ann hates spiders. So it's in the subject. Number 2, we have an object of a preposition, to whom. And in number 3, it's actually kind of a really long sentence, but we could just kind of focus on that one clause and skip the Professor Borglum glared at Reggie. We could say who spent the entire class drawing blah, blah, blah. We could say Reggie spent the entire class drawing blah, blah, blah. So again, we in this case actually know the antecedent, and we know that it's going to be in the subject of that clause, that sentence, so we're going to put in there who. In number 4, we again see an object of a preposition. For is the preposition for whom the bell tolls. And number 5, if we were going to answer that question in a complete sentence, I might say, Piglet was going to the store. So I know that Piglet is the subject, so we're going to be putting in who for our subject there. So if you got those, great. If you didn't get those correct, but you now understand why, that's awesome too, because you were stretching your brain. So take another break before we get ready to go on to direct objects. This time maybe get up and give somebody a high five or hang out with your stuffed animal for 2 minutes and then come on back. So I'm ready. Welcome back. We are going to be talking about our direct objects. And when you find a direct object, are you going to be using who or whom? And if you're looking at the slide, you know that you're going to be finding that you're going to replace that direct object with whom. This is when you need to follow through with step 3, or ask the question. And remember, we had a little formula for that question where you replace the subject plus the verb plus what. And then when you answer that question, that's your direct object. If you can answer the what and that it's being replaced, you have the direct object. This means you need the object pronoun form, which is whom. So think about the question that you would be asking. So if we had right here, whom was Tigger holding? Let's answer the question, and we're going to answer the question in a complete sentence. So we're not just going to say Rue, because that won't help us much. So whom was Tigger holding? Tigger was holding Rue. So what's step 1? Underline and label the verb or verb phrase. Step 2, draw the mast, separating our subject from our predicate. And then we could ask the question. So subject, Tigger, plus verb. Tigger was holding what? Rue, which is kind of silly, but there we go. And then we would say whom. Okay. Here's a little bit more practice. So I want you to think about these, again, using your noodle, because we've got a whole lot of other pieces in here. So you can look for the subject. If it's in the subject, you're going to be using who. If it's the object of a preposition, you're going to be replacing it with whom. And if it's a direct object, you'll be replacing it with whom. So let's look through these. Number 1, who or whom was investing in Edison Electric Light Company? Remember, you might want to answer that question in a complete sentence, and you'll actually be able to figure it out where the antecedent is. Number 2, the boss is the one to who or whom the records were sent. Number 3, Sir Humphrey Davy was uncertain about who or whom he would see. Let's see how you did. Who was investing in Edison Electric Light Company, excuse me. So if I wanted to answer that question, Eeyore was investing in Edison Electric Light Company. Eeyore would be in the subject, so we're going to be replacing that antecedent and with a who. For number 2, the boss is the one to whom the records were sent. Do you see that prepositional phrase right in here? We got it right here, to and whom. And in number 3, Sir Humphrey Davy was uncertain about whom he would see. Here's another preposition. There you go. So I'm hoping this is giving you a little bit of practice. We're definitely going to be doing a lot more, but I want you to keep stretching your noodle. Watch this as many times as you need to. Keep practicing, asking questions, stretching your brain. And until I see you the next time, I hope you have a great afternoon or evening or morning, and I will see you in our next episode.